There's always a freedom with Dream Theater to take it as far as you want to go.
That was awesome.
Just because James isn't 20 years old anymore.
Let's be honest here. Has your daughter made fun of you?
It's all so fresh to me.
What were you talking about?
Your body can only do so much. I mean, you look at Nicko McBrain.
There is only this much you can cheat the nature.
Man, this really sounds like old Dream Theater. It sounds like classic Dream Theater.
Hello, you Metal Pilgrims, and a very special welcome to all the Dream Theater fans, because today, for the very first time ever, we have nobody else but Mike Portnoy on the show. Mike, thank you so much for finding the time and joining me. How are you, man?
How you doing, man? Good to see you.
Yeah, I'm doing good. Well, as good as I can be here. I'm in Ukraine, obviously, but yeah, I'm alive, breathing, and talking about heavy metal. Shouldn't complain.
Good. That's all that matters.
What about where are you at right now?
I'm home in Pennsylvania, USA. Yeah. We've had the month of January off, but we just completed a European tour, a South American tour. Now we're home for the holidays with our families, and then getting ready to begin the North American tour in a few weeks.
And it's going to be exciting. I love Pennsylvania, by the way. Haven't been there in a while, but yeah, it's a fun place. So, Mike, obviously the biggest news in the world of Dream Theater these days is the release of your upcoming studio album, Parasomnia. So, first of all, congrats on letting it out, finally. For us, it's a new thing. For you, it's a bit like old deal already. Yeah. You've been for a year.
It's it feels like we made that album about 5 years ago at this point. Yeah, we spent all of 2024 making this album before we did any touring. So it's been something that we've been hard at work on for a year, and finally we get to give birth to it. We can't wait for the rest of the world to enjoy it.
I was writing a review for it, and I was like, I caught myself thinking like, since Mike's return to the band a couple of months ago, and I was like, wait, dude, wait. It's been more than a year now.
It's actually funny because we moved into the studio to start work on the album on February 7th, 24. Yeah. And now it's getting released February 7th, 25. Literally a year to the day from when we started it.
So when you hit that studio with Dream Theater, with the boys again, did it feel like you were picking up where you left off, in your first coming, or do you feel like it was like a fresh start for you in a way?
Well, both. There were definitely moments where we'd look around and like pinch each other, like, wait, are we really here? Am I really back in the band? Like, there were a few moments like that were very surreal, especially because, we made the announcement that I was coming back to the band, and then we didn't do anything together, like in public. We immediately went into the studio working privately in seclusion. So it wasn't even until we hit the stage, with the tour in October that the world even saw us together, which was like a year after the announcement. But there were definitely some moments of looking around and just in disbelief that here we are in 2024 or now 25 and back together. But on the other hand, it really did feel like we were just picking up exactly where we left off. Like you said, once we started jamming and playing together, it felt like only maybe 1 year had passed. It was hard to believe that it had been about 15.
Yeah, 15 shit.
Yeah, once making Black Clouds and Silver Linings was 2008, I think, when we were making the record. So yeah, it had been that long between making records for us.
Well, I gotta say, as a Dream Theater fan, it's a blessing to have you back. In the band, we're very thankful.
Thank you.
Another Mike for carrying the torch while you were gone, but it feels like home. So it's awesome that you're back.
Thank you.
So obviously, I was able to listen to the album a little bit earlier than most mortal human beings on this earth, and I'll tell you what I think about it in a moment. But I'm gonna tell exactly the same thing. I spoke with Rob for a couple of times, that listening to a new album by one of your favorite bands is the most terrifying experience ever. Because you're always like, oh my God, what if I hate it? Like, what if I really don't like it? Like, what it's gonna be like? Well, that wasn't the case, obviously.
Oh, good. Thank God.
But when it comes to Parasomnia, it's a very hyped up album for obvious reasons. And I feel like there was there could have been quite a lot of temptation for you guys to go into the loophole of trying to showcase too much that you're back in the band, that it's back to like, the classic lineup and, overdo it in a way. But I feel like this album is not proggy for the sake of being prog. It's a metal album with prog influences. And that's exactly how I liked and I like Dream Theater. So I think it's great. So when writing something like this, and especially writing a comeback album, did you have this temptation to a little bit overdo it, and did you have to kind of stop yourself and make it a little bit more digestible for the crowd?
We didn't think about it too much, to be honest. We kind of just followed our guts and our hearts and just went with our instincts. There wasn't much discussion on the style of music we wanted to write or the type of album we wanted to make stylistically. We just kind of started jamming, and it just kind of wrote itself, to be honest. But there's always a freedom with Dream Theater to take it as far as you want to go. I think, this band can get away with overplaying. It's kind of one of the characteristics of the band that sometimes people expect or sometimes people want that. But really, we try to always keep it in check. We try to always keep in mind the song. When we're writing, we're very conscious of where the vocals are going to go. What is a verse? What is a chorus? What is a bridge? And in those moments, we try to peel it back and make sure to leave a lot of room for the vocals to be up front. But then when it's instrumental sections, we go for it. So I don't think there was any more temptation because it was my first album back. I think we wanted to just let the music be what it is. And there were a lot of moments where we're writing something and it's like, man, this really sounds like old Dream Theater. It sounds like classic Dream Theater. And I guess the reason for that is because look at the 5 people that were creating it. These 5 people have a very distinctive style and direction and musical sound. That is, it just happens that way. If you look at the 6 albums that this lineup had made in the past, from Scenes from Memory through Black Clouds and Silver Linings, that's us. That's what comes out of these 5 people. So anytime there was something with the Parasomnia songs, if it felt familiar or it felt like an old classic Dream Theater sound or style, we embraced it. We weren't afraid to be nostalgic. We weren't fighting that. We kind of embraced it and let it be what it wanted to be.
Well, that's awesome. And I gotta say that I think this honesty is kind of audible in this album in a way, and in its cohesiveness as well, because this, at least for me, is one of those albums that is done in a rather old school way, because it is what I found it's most enjoyable when you listen to it in its entirety from the very beginning. Oh, kurva. Shit. We have an air raid alarm. Sorry about that.
Okay.
No, my wife is looking at the kids. So yeah, we're.
Oh God, I can't imagine a life like going through that. Oh my God, it's crazy.
It's insane. But we have an app that tells you where the rockets are flying. I think. Just one second. I have to check it. So
yeah, absolutely.
My kids. Just in case. It's drones. It's okay.
Wow.
We have another half hour, 40 minutes or so to go.
What a crazy life you have. Wow.
That's in the 21st century. You would never.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
We never could expect 4 years ago that something like this would be a part of our daily routine. I miss that.
Wow.
But where were you talking about? Oh yeah, it been. As I said, this is an album, although it's very modern in a way, but it's done in an old school way because you kind of have to appreciate it in its entirety. And the singles that came out, I feel like no matter which songs you would release, kind of would not do justice to it, because they are mostly and best digested when you hear whatever came before and what comes afterwards. And this is what I loved about it. I think this is like one of the strongest parts of this album for me personally, because I love it. I'm an old school guy. I have Iron Maiden, Judas Priest vinyl records lying around here. So do you think this also was a part that kind of came to you naturally, and which is kind of brave, in a modern world of Spotify?
Well, it was a conscious decision. It was an idea that I brought forward and brought to the band was the idea of making this more of a concept album, like thematically. Um, like I see behind you, you have Dark Side of the Moon. Like we was kind of thinking about something like that, a thematic concept album where it's, each song subject matter can kind of relate to each other, and we had this idea of making a record that is meant to be listened to from start to finish, like watching a movie or a TV show or reading a book. And so, yeah, that was a very conscious decision to make the record that way. And ultimately, we want to perform it that way live as well. We're hoping towards the end of 2025 we can do a proper tour for the album where we play it from start to finish, because that's the way it was meant to be listened to and the way it was meant to be performed as well.
Wow, that's
A lot of themes coming back and being foreshadowed or being reprised, and a lot of sound effects in between the songs to kind of tell a story. It was meant to be a very cinematic experience
and I think it
listening
is.
to this
I think
album.
there's like I'm now even more excited to listen to it in its entirety, right? And go on that emotional roller coaster, during the live performance. When you go into Band the Clock or something like this, that would be a very interesting experience to see how the fans react to this.
Yeah.
Talking about playing live, obviously, when it comes to legacy bands, let's call it like this, there always comes a time for all of them, sooner or later, that they kind of have to not perform and take some of the songs out of the set list, because either one band member cannot perform them or you're just overgrown them. That's okay, that's normal, right? So when comprising the set list for 2024, now 2025 tour, were there any songs like this for you? I know you were in charge of it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've always been very passionate about writing set lists, um, not only for Dream Theater, but for any band I'm a part of. But anyway, choosing the set list for this 40th anniversary tour was actually very easy,
Mhm.
for me in particular, because I haven't played these songs in so long. Back in like 2010, if I was writing a set list, I would have to take into consideration, oh, we played Pull Me Under a million times. We played Metropolis a million times. The fans don't want to hear it anymore. We don't want to play it anymore. Those things were taken into consideration. But for me now, coming back into the band after all this time away, it's all so fresh to me. So, I'm excited to play Pull Me Under again. It maybe wasn't that way years ago, but now it was a nice, clean slate to work with. So actually, the set list this time around was very easy. I was able to write a set list that was almost like a greatest hits kind of package of fan favorites. And there's some deep cuts in there as well. The second set, we have some deeper tracks, some of the longer ones. But for the most part, I wanted to write a set list that was filled with just hit after hit. Not that Dream Theater has hits, but ones that are the most commonly, uh, listened to tracks.
Well, I think you did a great job on this one. Honestly, I think everyone was freaking out about how amazing the setlist was, and
Thank you.
basically giving the fans exactly what they wanted. When it comes to the atmosphere of like playing on stage, that whole chemistry and environment, has anything changed for you? 15 years later.
Well, we're older. It's harder to play 3-hour shows when you're in your 50s and 60s like we are. It's not like it was all those years ago in our 20s and 30s. We have physical limitations that the body can only endure so much. And you asked in the last question if there was anything that we were conscious of, when I was putting the set list together. Like, there weren't any songs that we stayed away from. Everything was fair game, but there were some of the older songs where maybe we had to make some adjustments to the vocal melodies, just because James isn't 20 years old anymore. There's physical limitations to what a voice can physically do. So there were some of the older songs, maybe from Images and Words or Awake, where we had to look at the melodies and make some adjustments, to accommodate that. And the same could be said for the drums. Not that I'm making any adjustments, but the drums are also like the vocals, a very physical instrument, and your body can only do so much. I mean, you look at Nicko McBrain recently retiring from touring just because he's in his 70s and his body can only do so much. And I look at people like Rob Halford or Bruce Dickinson that are able to still do it, but as we all get older, the physical limitations of our bodies become more and more a reality.
There is only this much you can cheat the nature, right? I mean, maybe for a couple of years, maybe 5 years if you're really lucky. But I agree with you.
But you still see people like Paul McCartney or the Rolling Stones in their 80s still doing it, still playing 3-hour shows. Granted, heavy metal music and Dream Theater's music in particular is very demanding, maybe a lot more so than playing Rolling Stone songs, but it is physically demanding nonetheless for anybody once you get to that age.
Talking about Nicko McBrain, I have to ask this because our community is known to be a huge Iron Maiden and Judas Priest nerd community, which I know you're a fan as well, so you're a part of us now. When Nicko left, I think you wrote something about you being absolutely shocked about his decision of leaving. Can you elaborate on this a little bit? Like, were you shocked that Nicko decided to leave, or were you shocked that the band decided to carry on without Nicko McBrain behind the kit?
Well, it was more about Nicko stepping down, and it was just sad for me to see him have to make that decision. I mean, Nicko's been a good friend of mine for over 30 years. So as a friend, it's sad for me to see him having to struggle to make such a heavy decision. Of course, I understand the band carrying on. They're a huge band, and a big brand name, globally, playing stadiums all around the world. So I understand that this giant empire needs to carry on. But he only mentioned retiring from touring, so I'm hoping that he's still in the band and could still make music with the guys, just maybe in a more limited capacity. But no matter what, I wish him all the best, because he is a very good friend of mine, and you want him to be comfortable in his physical abilities, and if it means him having to put the drumsticks down from touring, I wish him all the best.
Absolutely. And Nicko is a fighter, and he did an incredible job on the Future Past tour to his capacity. And after everything he went through, I think this was incredible. But wait, I just have to ask this, because once again, when I announced that I'll be doing an interview, so many people ask me about this, to ask you, if schedule allowed and you were invited, would you consider substituting for Nicko behind the kit for Iron Maiden? Once again, if schedule with Dream Theater would align.
That's such a hypothetical scenario and question. I mean, look, on the surface, of course, they're one of the biggest bands in the world and one of my favorite bands in the world. So yeah, I mean, I hear that question come up all the time about Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson as well. It's such a hypothetical, but I think for Iron Maiden in particular, it's not even worth posing that question, because I don't think in a million years they would have anybody in the band that wasn't English. They are such a traditionally British band that I think this is a hypothetical question that needn't even be asked, because it would be an impossibility. Absolutely. Unless I changed my nationality.
All right, talking about the other bands, we have another minute. We all saw you rocking out to Taylor Swift a couple of days. That was awesome. I think that was like one of the best episodes on YouTube fucking ever. Let's be honest here. Has your daughter made fun of you for not knowing who Taylor is, and has she made you listen to more of her songs afterward?
No, she knew I did this video with Drumeo last year when it happened, and I told her about it, and she couldn't wait to see it. It's a funny video. But yeah, my daughter loves Taylor Swift. She's a Swiftie, and she went and saw the Eras tour. But I don't listen to that kind of music, to be honest. Even if my daughter's listening to it with her headphones, she has headphones in, so I haven't really been exposed to it. And people say, well, you can't walk into a supermarket or a convenience store without hearing Taylor Swift. I mean, maybe I hear these kind of songs, her or Beyonce or Kanye. Maybe I hear them in the background. I just never know who is who, and I just never pay attention. So I legitimately did not know that song. That's legitimately the truth.
Well, that makes two of us. My oldest daughter is 7. She knows who Taylor Swift is, and she makes a lot of fun of me for not knowing the modern pop acts already. So I think that makes it
Yeah.
two of us. Well, on this cheerful note, Mike, I don't want to take any more of your time because, I can talk about heavy metal literally for hours. That's my biggest passion in the world. But I have to run, and unfortunately, and you have to run to another one. So any last message for the fans, both old and new, all across the world? Anything you want to show them?
We cannot wait for people to hear this new album, Parasomnia. We were really inspired being back together again, making this album, and we wanted to make something that was very, very special and more than just a collection of songs. So we went into making this album something that is a real experience to listen to from start to finish. And we hope that the fans really can enjoy it and appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This was Mike Portnoy, and Parasomnia is out on February 7th, so make sure to not miss it. I'm sure you will not miss it. Mike, thanks so much for finding time and joining me. Keep rocking, man.
Thank you, man.